Awesome Studios recently released White Knight has been on my radar for the last month. Using a monochrome art styling that Frank Miller would be proud of, White Knight is set in Boston during the Depression of the late 1930s. You're introduced to an unnamed playable character who unashamedly is looking to solve his life's issues through alcohol. In an opening that is reminiscent of Sin City, our downtrodden fedora and trench coat wearing protagonist finds himself behind the wheel after a few drinks. Swerving to miss a lady, he crashes into a tree. Shaken but alive, our hero sees no trace of the woman, and with his car totaled he staggers off to find help.
I was trying to collect my thoughts, but the intense pain was scattering them like a bunch of dead birds. My fear of being wounded changed into an obsession. Was I about to die?
In his quest for assistance, he stumbles across a nearby mansion called Vesper Manor. Once inside, he quickly realizes that the Manor's inhabitants are reluctant to help, and also less than human. The game plays out as a third-person horror adventure, in which survival is a key focus. Like many of the later released horror titles, knives and guns are of no defense against the enemies, and it becomes quite clear that the Miller-inspired monochrome graphics have been employed for a reason greater than its looks. Electrical light is the ghoul's only weakness. Unfortunately for our unwilling hero, the mansion's electricity is not functioning too well. So much of the game is spent in darkness, using matches to light your way and solve the many puzzles that award progression. When the screen does go black, without light things can feel quite tense. However, due to the mansion having more matches than the local tobacconist, light is always only a strike away. This abundance of matches feels a little bit cheap, but it's also necessary. Wandering around on a black screen for hours without seeing what you could do or where to go would hardly be fun now, would it? Unfortunately, although there are plenty of sources of light to use, fun is the last thing White Knight has on the menu. When encountering a ghost in an area for the first time, the game excels and creates great panic. However, if caught, there is no escape, and it is back to your last save point, of which are few and far between. Notice I said first encounter. If you die, and you will often, the ghost resets in an entirely different part of the room. This sounds good in theory, offering variety, but with such limited light and a frustratingly fixed camera, your progress can rely on luck as opposed to skill. Most of your gameplay in White Knight is split between toing and froing from room to room to collect the necessary items for a puzzle that grant you an extremely slow progression, or reading ridiculous amount of collectibles. There's photos, books, diary entries, even the story that you play is told via a newspaper that unlocks articles with your progression. Due to this, the game moves along at a pedestrian pace, and at times struggles to keep your interest. The game is also heavily narrated by our nameless protagonist. Whilst this works well for the story progression, he relentlessly keeps announcing ridiculous thoughts. I mean, if I was locked in a mansion with poltergeists attempting to kill me around every corner, I'd be pretty freaked out. He just keeps meandering along, mumbling, without real awareness of the situation at hand. It detracts a lot from the game. White Knight showed some great ideas, but unfortunately it just falls flat. I was really hoping for a Hitchcock-Miller collaboration that showed greatness, but unfortunately I found a monochrome version of Murdered Soul Suspects, and a game that's hard to recommend.